Hello, crafty friends. Welcome to this month's online card class where we're going to make some beautiful handmade cards that help you send smiles, love, and support to the people in your life. You have clicked by the online card club by Just Stamp. It is February 20th, 2025. I hope you can grab a favorite bev, sit down, relax, and let's craft. All right, so raise your hand if you are watching or if you watched the replay, and if you love giving and receiving happy mail, because there's something special about every card that's handmade. Today I'm going to be showing you 4 pretty all-occasion cards, perfect for birthdays, sympathy, congratulations, ways to reach out and connect with your friends and family. And we're featuring lots of different supplies. So get comfy, let's get crafting. Here's what we've got today. We've got a cheerful birthday card for him or her, a heartfelt sympathy featuring a very cool technique, a cute card for book lovers. It could be a birthday or a celebration card, and a gorgeous floral birthday card. So I'm going to be sharing with you a variety of techniques for stamping, layering, embossing, and layout techniques to create your simple but stunning cards. Whether you're a total beginner or a seasoned crafter, you're going to love the designs. So before I get started, let me just say, let's talk about the supplies. If you would like any of the supplies to create the cards, I will be posting a link. And to encourage you to shop before the end of the month, I'm going to be offering a free card class with just a $60 order. And you can also pick out a celebration item since we are still in the celebration promotion period. There's a variety of freebies that you can pick. I'm going to be suggesting some as we go along. Okay, so as I'm moving along, make sure that you let me know you're here, ask a question if you don't understand what I'm working on, and let's take it away with card number 1. I'm going to remove these. I'm going to stick with my first card, which is a perfect card for him or her. And I know sometimes the cards for him are a little bit challenging. This is a great one to have on hand. I think it works well for men, women, even kids. And it actually features, and I'm crossing my fingers, I didn't check to make sure that this free celebration item is still available. I know it was on low inventory yesterday. So here is what we are going to be working with. The alphabet set, and I was hoping it's called Alphabet a la Mode. This is a die set that you can actually get for free. And as I said, I hope it's still available with just a $60 order. I'm also using the birthday celebration stamp set. I'm using that big birthday font. And I'm using some die cuts from the Tune In bundle. This is from the annual catalog. And let me also point out, I have posted a file up at the top of this group. There is a supply sheet for February 2025. If you're interested in what products I used, it's not a tutorial, but it does help you kind of get your thoughts together when you're ready to craft. So here we go with the happy birthday card. I'll call out measurements as I'm going along. I'm going to share with you my tips and my techniques to get the cards made. And I think you're going to love this one. It's a very nice layout. That's one of the things I love about this layout. It's got a nice frame on it, and it is using one of my favorite papers, the Full of Life paper pack. That's what I've cut this frame from. And let me just grab my reference sheet. All right, so this is the file that's available in the group page, and you can see I've got my February Stamp with Friends project sheet, and I'm listing the stamp sets, the tools, the paper, the inks that I'm using to help me along with it. So I'm starting off with that frame, from the Full of Life stamp paper pack. This measures 4 7/8 by 3 5/8. My card base that it's going to be resting on is Lost Lagoon. It's a standard card size. That's 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. We are just going to go ahead and fold that. Use the bone folder to crease and burnish. And I hope you'll leave me a comment if you're watching either live or the replay. So you know you're watching live if you've got the little red button up at the top. All right, so let's see here. I have 2 cuts of basic white. These measure 3 3/4 by 5 inches. We're going to have one for our insert and one for the outside of the card. And then I've got a basic white scrap that measures 3 1/4 by 3. That's what we're going to use to focus our greeting on. So let's get started with the easy bits. On the card front, and let me pull back in my reference card there. On the card front, I've got both a white background and then my frame. And you can see I've chosen different sheets from that Full of Life paper pack. I've got this larger squares and the smaller squares. Either one will work. To create the frame, I just took my paper trimmer and I cut 3/4 of an inch down. So 3/4 of an inch down, 3/4 of an inch over, and I just use this on my paper trimmer. I want to say it's easy to create it. It takes a little bit of training, a little bit of practice. So practice on some older paper, not your favorite sheets, and certainly not the ones that you just have a couple left of. So I am going to be, and what I'm doing now, this is a tip. Sometimes my liquid glue, which is my favorite, it can clog up at the tip. I just take a paper clip that I have stretched out, insert it in that little nozzle, and poke it through to remove the little glob. Just a little bit of a blockage that occurs once in a while. So this gets flat adhered. I'm going to center it on my card base. So I love the Lost Lagoon. I did pick it up from the Designer Series paper pack. I think it goes nicely, and I think it's a color that's suitable for men and women, and it even has some happier, more cheerful colors for younger folks too. All right, so next I am going to add my frame, and I'm actually lifting the frame up with some dimensionals to give it excuse me, some dimensions, right? Okay, so I'm at the end of my sheet. It seems like I'm always at the end of my sheet of dimensionals. Does that happen with you? I wish I knew how many of these packs I went through so I could just keep my supply full at all times. But I do go through a lot, but I also share when I have stampers that come and craft with me. Typically, we bring our favorite adhesives. If you're a new stamper, you don't know that you need these dimensions. You need these dimensionals, right? Okay, so now I'm going to just remove the sticky back on them, or remove the covering to make them sticky. And I'm going to be adhering it to my card front. You can see the back side of the paper is also colorful. You could use that as well. It would look just as pretty, just as cool. And this, I will say, I've had 16 stampers in my studio over the last couple of days. This was one of the favorites among several of the stampers. So, all right, so I'm set there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is create my big happy and my birthday. And again, these letters are from the Alphabet a la Mode die set. And I apologize. I should have checked to make sure it was still available this morning. I checked yesterday night and it was there. So hopefully not a lot of orders came through in that time frame to make it disappear. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add these to my basic white scrap. So 3 1/4 across, 3 inches down is going to be plenty of space for that. And here's what I like to do. One of the options for the adhesive would have been to put the adhesive sheet behind before I die cut it. My other option is just a dot of the liquid glue. And I'll actually say, although this might be a little bit more of a challenge for some, it's my favorite because that liquid glue is quite forgiving. Let's see if I can move these aside. Push up. There we go. So again, hey, if you're here, leave me a comment. If you're watching live, I want to know who's watching. Don't be shy. Just say hello. Tell me where you're from. All right, there we go. And let's keep going. My next letter. So I love the size of these letters. And I was just amazed when I saw that these were free offering because it was actually a very expensive die set and something that you could use on so many different projects. These are so fun, and I love outline cutting my words. I'm just being kind of careful to align the top and the bottom with those little serifs there, those like little feet at the end of the letters. So, and I'm going to add, I hope that you can relax and enjoy the class. There are 4 projects. I don't want to say they're complicated because they're not. They just have a few steps. And so it takes some time. This isn't a race to get done. You just sit back and relax. I hope you have a beverage and you can just sip. And I'm hoping that this inspires you to make the cards, the projects that help you connect with your peeps. I know I get excited when I get happy mail at my birthday or anytime, actually. It doesn't have to be my birthday. I love getting my cards, letters in the mail. And it's even more awesome when they're handmade cards because those are cards from the heart, right? There we go. And you can see it's just a dot, right? So my favorite saying, dot, dot, not a lot, certainly applies. Oops, it's upside down. I'm going to do this upside down so I don't have to flip my tool. And again, I'm just trying to align the serifs. And you could even draw a pencil line to get that aligned on the line. You can see it when I laid it down, it didn't quite stick, but that's the beauty of the liquid glue. It would have been a little bit more of a struggle with a Seal or Seal Plus. So I've got my happy, and next I'm going to do my stamping with the sentiment from the birthday celebration set, and I have pre-mounted these on my blocks already. So the birthday, I love that scripty font, is going to be stamped in Pretty Peacock. So Pretty Peacock is a great partner for the Lost Lagoon, right? And again, it's a great color for men or women. So that's what my stampers loved about this card. It's a great one to have in your stash. And I love the retro style stars that are used. And you know what? I'm going to grab, I didn't have it handy, but it will be helpful. All right, I grabbed my piercing mat to stamp on because this is a photopolymer stamp set. And if you want a nice impression with a photopolymer stamp set, it's helpful to have that piercing mat below. That it's an extra cush. And I'm going to do something a little bit different than I did on my original card, trying to stamp down. So on my original, I'll show you, it was one unified cut. So the happy and the birthday were cut on just one sheet. I'm going to cut them separately, and you can let me know which one you would prefer to do. Oops, I'm going to need that Pretty Peacock. I was already putting it away. All right, so let's get our stamping done. I need my other basic white insert layer, and I'm just going to stamp some of the little funky stars from the Tune In bundle, again in Pretty Peacock. And so you'll have lots of space for a birthday message, and you can stamp these stars however you like. You can stamp a couple, It depends on how much you want to write on the card, right? All right, so, and again, just love the retro vibe from the tune-in bundle. All right, so I'm done with that. Let me put these things aside. It will reduce the number of things that I lose, right? Hopefully. And just to share, if you lose things on your craft table, that is perfectly normal. Sometimes I drive myself crazy thinking I just set it down. Where did it go? And sometimes it's practically in my hand or about to bite my hand because it's so close. So I'm just going to put my insert. By the way, the insert was 3 3/4 by 5, basic white. The layering cardstock, not the thick cardstock. All right, so you can see how easily it's coming along, and I already noticed. Okay, so now we're going to hand snip. Now I get lots of reaction when I say hand snip to my stampers. Some of them love the process of hand snipping, and some people don't. And I had one stamper that said, you know, I don't mind hand snipping the letters, but when it's an image, it's a little bit harder because I don't know where to cut. And it's really a matter of preference because sometimes you want that little white outline and sometimes you don't, right? So what I'm doing here is outlining the letters. I happen to love the white outline, especially for a stamp or a die like the alphabet a la mode. And I'm going to try and come up a little bit closer. So this is the advantage of doing 2 separate cuts as opposed to the 1 cut that I originally had on my card. But you be the decision maker. It's your card and you are making it. So if you prefer to snip them separately, then you have that prerogative, right? That's something I always stress with my in-person stampers. Like, this is your card. You don't need permission to deviate from the sample. Or sometimes it's a skill level too. As I said, some people prefer not to fussy cut, and so they'll maybe just make a direct cut using the trimmer. Totally up to you. And again, I'm going to go in deep. And I have lots of stampers that say they find the fussy cutting very soothing, very relaxing. And yet, at the opposite end, we'll find people that think it's a little bit stressful. And you can see I kind of do it in sections because it's better to remove those big areas or those big cuts. It's kind of hard when you have too much cardstock getting in the way of your snips. All right. And just going to do a couple of little cuts, and I'm going to leave that space between the 2 P's. I think it's going to be a good spot to help me adhere my dimensionals. Okay, this one's a little bit more of a challenge because it's got that scripty font, a little bit more curved in the cuts. And my tip is just to move the paper as you're going. Don't worry so much about the scissors. And also have the right kind of scissors. For me, fussy cutting is not easy to do when you have large scissors. The paper snips are the perfect size for getting in and out easily. And one of the cool things Stampin' Up started doing a few years ago was mixing the fonts. So it's so great to have the decorative script fonts with the basic, either the serif or the sans serif block letters. And as you can surmise by looking at the card, this one doesn't require too many supplies, and you don't have to have a die cutting machine. Those little stars that I added could be replaced with some other kind of embellishment. Anything to just add a little bit more celebration to your design. So, do you have a favorite color for more masculine cards? I think the blues, the greens would be suitable, certainly the earth tones. But sometimes you want something a little bit more colorful, right? You don't want all earth tones, so you want a nice pop of color once in a while. As well as the pattern. So the blocks, the plaids are great for masculine cards, for any unisex card. And I have to add too, for also all age groups, right? Do you have any ideas of what else is suitable for a more generic card? So just look at your colors, look at your patterns that you're using. And then also the embellishments that you do or don't use. Like I wouldn't put a ribbon necessarily on a unisex card. Okay, so here's how it's gonna work. That's gonna be added there, that goes there. Let me bring in my mini dimensionals. And I'm just gonna flip that over. And so this is the area where I said, it's kind of nice to have that cardstock in the areas. And I'm gonna also suggest, this is gonna extend beyond the gap. So I'm gonna be putting glue dots in there. I don't wanna have dimensional, because that would be what I call double stacking. We've already got the frame on dimensionals. We don't want to have the greeting on dimensionals over the same area as well. So let's secure this down. And so I'm just going to take the backing off of these mini dimensionals. And that's another thing I suggest too. I like having both sizes of dimensionals when I'm crafting. It's nice to have the smaller at the ready, different adhesives for different purposes, and that includes the size and color of the dimensionals. All right, I'm also going to secure down the birthday, same way. And this one as well spills over into the frame area. So let me add my dimensionals, remove that backing, add it to my card. There we go. Now I've got some little loose ends here. Let me bring in my mini glue dots, and I use my take your pick tool to grab one dot. And I'm gonna slip it right underneath so that letter is secure down. And I'm also gonna put one right below on the serif. So that little, it's almost like a little foot. And one on the H as well. Just back it up in there. And maybe one on the B. So again, adhesives of all kinds so that you're set. There we go. So last, I'm going to add my embellishments, which are actually the die cuts from that tune-in bundle. And just to save a little bit of time, because we're doing lots of projects today, and they're not sweet and simple, they're a little bit more complicated. I die cut in the, in the brushed silver and gold foil, so obviously silver. It got that nice texture to it. I did one of the large stars, and then it's one die that cuts the trio of smaller stars. And I pre-cut those. There we go, and I save that. Now, you could actually save this end as a stencil. That would be very cool because we do not have this star stamp. There's only a die. All right, oh, I need one more dimensional. I'm gonna add it to the inside of the frame. That's how I'm going to stick my large star down. Overlap that. And then for the smaller ones, I'm just going to use a tiny dot of glue. Whoops. Well, not so tiny there because it was already forming the little clog. So what I'm going to do here, luckily, that's my larger, here's what I'm looking for. That is my larger star. Goes right there. And then I have two smaller ones. I have the smallest and I have a mid-size. And let me flip that over. So mid-size on its own and this, whoops. So that's the con of the liquid glue. It needs a little bit of time to adhere. There we go. So happy birthday. And inside we have our little retro stars. What do you think? Is that a card you would make? You don't have to fussy cut. If you just wanted to have the one layer on basic white, you could do that as well. So let me grab some dimensionals. Let me take a sip. We're going to come back for card number 2. So happy birthday. If you're watching live, let me know. Did you like this card? Is it one that you would make? Post a comment down below. Okay, card number 2. We're going to switch up just a little bit. I have a beautiful heartfelt sympathy card with a great technique. And this is cased, oh, and I meant to look up the name of the demonstrator that I'm casing this from. I found this card on a site that's exclusive for Stampin' Up! Demonstrators. It's one of the perks of being a demonstrator. Let me grab what we're using. As I said, this one has a great technique, and it features that beautiful Memorable Blooms stamp set, and then the sentiment I got from a stamp set called So Sincere. Oops, that's kind of tough to read, right? There we go. Look at all those great sentiments on this stamp set. You're in my heart and prayers. And I must say that this is a great card to have on hand, right? The sympathy cards are ones that you want to have a supply of because you never know when you're going to need it, and you don't necessarily have the time to create when you're in need. All right, so let's see. Let me move aside the stamp sets, and then I'm going to bring in my PDF sheet, which tells me what my supplies were that I used. So this, again, this is available in the files section on this page. It is not a tutorial. It is not a step-by-step instructions. It just tells you what supplies were used on the card. So I know So Sincere stamp set, Memorable Blooms stamp set. I didn't use the dies. Memorable Blooms is a bundle, and so you know you can save 10% when you buy both the stamp set and the dies together. And I would, even though it's not, the dies aren't used on this card, I would still grab them because they will outline cut some of the images in the stamp set. All right, so as I'm talking, I am folding my card base, which is Highland Heather, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have two pieces again of basic white. One is an insert, which is 3 3/4 by 5. And one is our layer for stamping. I have a mat that is basic black, and I'll tell you the dimensions. I have a couple of snips of the 6 by 6 Settles paper. That's for our insert. It goes beautifully. And I just realized how much I love the purples as I was creating this card. This ribbon is a Saleabration gift. It is the Fresh Freesia seam binding ribbon. it just goes beautifully with this color scheme. And I'm using Stays On ink. So that's something different. When we get to the stamping, I'll let you know why I'm using that. Let me give you the dimensions of the basic white layer and the matte. So the basic white is 4 7/8 by 3 3/8. So that means that the matte is going to be 3.5 by 4 3/4. And so we're going to have just a smidge of a matte showing. Okay, so let's take this away. Again, this is a technique card. I'm going to put some of my supplies aside so I don't lose them. And I'm going to put my reference card up here. Let's start with the technique. So I'm going to share with you how to create that pretty watercolor background. And let's see where my tools are. So the first thing I need is a block, an acrylic block, and I chose block H. It's tall and narrow. And here's my color scheme. I have my purples and I have my greens. So my purples are Fresh Freesia, Highland Heather, and Gorgeous Grape. I am going to be using the brush tips on the Stampin' Up markers. So on the marker itself, you can tell which is the brush and which is the pen. So brush tip has the wide line on one end, and the pen tip has the narrow. So some of the newer markers have more of a bullet style tip. Both are very convenient. For my green and my leaves, I'm using Lemon Lime Twist and Granny Apple Green. Right now, I'm not going to use those for my background, however. And I'm trying to put my things away. So here's what I'm going to do. I am going to lift up my paper and have just my glass mat, and hopefully I do get a bit of a glare on there. It'll be fine. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with my lightest color, which happens to be Fresh Freesia. I'm going to apply the ink direct to the block. I'm just going to swipe the color, and I don't need to be going back and forth because I just want a little bit of color, not a lot. And you probably can't even see it on camera. Maybe you might be able to see the tint of it. I'm going to go on to my second color, my second purple, which is Highland Heather. And again, I'm going to do about 1/3 of the way down using the brush tip and just kind of swiping across side to side. I don't need to worry that everything is covered completely. And then finally, the darkest purple, which is Gorgeous Grape, for the lowest third of the block. All right, there we go. So next, here's where the magic's gonna start to happen. So cool. I have one of my spritzers, and I think these are available in 2 packs. In the spritzer, I have just plain water. Oh, I can see it's coming to an end. And there is a residual of the shimmer paint inside, which is kind of cool actually, because it's going to give me a little bit of shimmer on here. Now I'm going to check to make sure the nozzle is sprayed directly to the block, and I want to get I want to wet that block. I'm going to bring in my white paper, and I'm going to come over here where I didn't spritz. Whoops, it's kind of runny. And I'm going to go direct to paper, and you can kind of see how the water and the color spreads on the paper. Lift that up. All right, now I have a bit of a wet mess here, so I have my glass mat chamois at the ready. I'm going to wipe down my glass mat so it's not all wet. There we go. And put my block aside, and I can bring my paper down so you don't have that glare. And you do want to have a surface. Don't spray into the air. Don't spray down, because you'll get it on your table or your floor. So best to have a surface where you can spray down to. You saw how easy it is to clean. Now, here's the thing. This paper is wet. We don't want to stamp on it until it's dry. So I'm going to wait I'm just going to put it aside. So we could speed up the drying process by taking or bringing in the heat tool. I'm just going to lay it aside while I work on the insert. Okay, so I'm going to be using the big branch, or that big bouquet of flowers. For the insert, let me share with you. We have just that little leaf branch, and then we have our snips of designer series paper. So again, let me put my reference card there. Let me bring in Stays On. And the reason I'm using Stays On, not necessarily for the insert. I don't need it on the insert, but I do need it on the card front layer because we are going to be coloring with the dye ink markers. And so we always want to use opposite inks when we're using dye inks. Same goes if you're using your Stampin' Blends, which are alcohol based, then you need the memento pad. All right, so I'm going to put that, close that up. I'm going to bring in my insert. I'm going to stamp my leaf, and it's just going to come in from the side. We're going to be coloring this with the Stampin' Right markers. And by the way, I'm going to be cleaning that stamp in just a minute. I'll show you how I clean the Stays On ink off of a red rubber stamp. So I'm going to add my strips of designer series paper. And to do that, I'm just going to use a small trail of liquid glue. And this just decorates the inside of your card. And this I would just use scraps. This is like 1/2 inch by 3 3/4. And then the other one might be just over 1/4 inch. And I do want a little bit of a gap. All right, now to color, let's see, you know what, actually, before I move on and color, let me stamp my sentiment. You're in my heart and prayers. I'm using again the Stays On Black, and this is the little stamp set that comes from the this is the stamp that comes from the So Sincere stamp set. Stamp down. There we go. Okay, so that's it for the stamping. So I'm ready to clean, and here's what I clean with. This is a little bit different. I won't use my chamois. I need the solvent that cleans the permanent ink. It's a Stays On cleaner. And what you're going to do is just bring that in direct to the stamp, red rubber. And oh, I actually have one more thing I need to stamp, right? Oh well, you'll get the drift. Okay, so I've rubbed that solvent on there. I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Scrub, and it's been a while since I brought this out. Let me just share with you, there is a wet side and a dry side. So up in the corner, I have raindrops, wet, and on the other corner, I've got the sun, the dry side. So I'm just going to scrub on the wet, dry on the sun, and repeat with the other stamp. And look how perfectly clean it gets your red rubber stamps, right? Perfect. So you probably want to avoid permanent ink on your photopolymer stamps because that solvent can deteriorate your stamps. So red rubber is always a great choice for the Stays On. All right, so I'm still waiting for my paper to dry. While we're waiting, I'm going to bring in my markers to color the leaves. And I'm going to start with the lemon line twist using the brush tip. I'm going to color the large leaves. And typically for coloring, I would go with Stampin' Blends, but this is a small area with the Stampin' Right markers. So it's going to come out beautifully, especially when we add a little bit of tone on tone, some shadowing with Granny Apple Green. And right through here. There we go. Again, I love this Memorable Blooms stamp set. It is in the mini, and At this point, I don't know if it's going to be staying around. We are coming to the point where we'll have a transition of catalogs. All right, now I'm just going to come in some areas with the Granny Apple green, give it some shading. Not a lot, just a little bit in here. And then I came in with just a brush tip and kind of dotted each of these tiny little leaves, just adding a little bit of color. I'm not even doing strokes, just adding my color quickly and easily. Remember, this is the insert, and it just kind of finishes off your card nicely to have the insert coordinate. Okay, so quick and easy coloring with the Stampin' Right markers. What do you think? Have you had practice with Stampin' Right markers of late? If you've been crafting for a long time, you know the Stampin' Right markers have been around since my day one, at least. They were the coloring tools when I first started as a demonstrator. And it's kind of cool that Stampin' Up! Is offering them as a bonus when you purchase the starter kit during Saleabration. You have an option to pick 2 marker sets at a value of $30 a set. So that's huge. I did have somebody sign with me earlier this week, and she thought she was going to get 1 marker. No, it's the whole family. So cool, right? So you can get 2 marker sets and a bonus stamp set in addition to the $125 of your choice of product. So if you are not currently a demonstrator and you have a long wish list, you can stretch your crafting dollar with the starter kit, and you can continue to get a 20 to 25% discount for as long as you like, just by meeting the requirements to maintain your demonstratorship. All right, let's do the card front now. We're going to take our watercolored background that we created, and it's not perfectly dry, but I think it's going to be okay. This is a large stamp, so I've got my stamp on the tabletop, and I'm just going to put my Stays On ink direct to my rubber stamp. And it's kind of cool doing it this way. You can see to make sure everything is inked up. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to say every card is going to be different. No matter what you do, the exact same steps will give you different results each time with that watercolor background. All right, so be warned, when you open a Stays On ink pad, you will get a whiff of the alcohol. I'm going to close that up, and I am going to go ahead and repeat. I'm going to clean this stamp before it gets stained. Just applying the solvent. It's kind of rubbing that on. I'm going to be able to put this away. And let me get my Stampin' Scrub and repeat. First on the wet side, dry side, and your stamp is nice and pretty, ready to use again at a later date. All right, let's color our focal point. We're going to bring back in our green and our purples. And I'm going to start at the top with Fresh Freesia. I'm going to color in the little blossoms very quickly, easily. I am going to be using my other colors to bring in the shadow and add some detailing. So the Fresh Freesia, the lightest of the purples, is what I start with at the top. The Gorgeous Grape is very dark. You will want to reserve that for the little shadow areas. So let's start here. Fresh Freesia at the top, some of the blossoms. And we are creating a beautiful sympathy card. You're in my heart and prayers. And I guess it could kind of be either a bereavement card or maybe an illness card. Any kind of struggle that people are going through. It's nice to know that there are others praying and pulling for them. And people don't know that until you either say it or send them a card. And I think that's what I love about card making. It kind of gets you to express those feelings, those thoughts. Too often we forget to say it, right? Okay, so fresh freesia, I'm going to come in with Highland Heather on some of the lower blooms. Right through here. And there's no right or wrong with this coloring or what you color where. As I say, the Gorgeous Grape is a little bit dark for my liking, so I'm just using that for my detailing and my shadow areas. Just taking a sip. Okay. It's gonna be a longer class today. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of go over. I always seem to miss one blossom, but that's okay. You can pick it up when you're doing your leaves. Usually that's when you notice there's a piece missing. Again, just taking a sip. Oh my goodness. Let's see. So I'm going to bring in my greens. I'm going to leave my shadowing for just a minute. And I'm starting again with the lemon lime twist. So I was thinking about this card. I think it would also be pretty in the pumpkin pie, peach pie tones. So if you're not a fan of purple, you could use a different color scheme and the color partners. Pinks would be pretty too. I can see the melon mambo and pretty in pink on here as well. And sometimes you panic thinking, oh, this isn't turning out right. Keep with it. You're going to find as you complete all the steps, it's actually going to be very, very stunning. Just don't throw it in because you're not liking the results. Like there are areas on here, I wish I had a little bit more water and I might have gone back and spritzed extra in that little block area there, maybe at the top, which you can do, by the way. If you don't feel you got great results with the first spritzing, you can re-spritz. It's an acrylic block you can see right through for placement. So. All right, some of these smaller ones go with the Granny Apple Green only. So let's bring in the Granny Apple Green. We're gonna do a little bit of tone on here. Just add a little bit of darker tone to some areas. I can hear tree trimming in the background. It is the season, it's February. Here in California, we're having a gorgeous, almost like a June day. High is gonna be nearly 80. So if you're watching live, it's a beautiful spring day, and actually we're still in winter. All right, here we go. Almost done. All right, there we go. So you can take as much time as you want, a lot of time or not a lot of time to color in. It's your preference, however you want to do it. You'll find if you go a little bit slower, you get great results, right? Get a little bit in here because I want my card to be very nice too. You can come in and blend it out. There we go. I am always in need of these as well. Or I have family members who might need the cards. Okay, so there we go. We are ready to mat. We're gonna mat this onto the basic black, and I am actually going to see if my Seal Plus is cooperating, and it is. So you do want to lay down enough adhesive because the water on the paper causes it to bend or warp a little bit. So make sure you have plenty of adhesive down for it to connect with the mat. Oops, I just had a struggle with that. Okay, and that is why I prefer my liquid glue. Seal and Seal Plus try to be the boss. There we go. Stunning, right? Isn't that pretty? And again, everyone is going to come out different. Oh, you know what I didn't do? No wonder it's a little bit different. Let me add some of the gorgeous grape to some areas. Those darker, shadowy areas or the centers. And again, I'm not going to lay down too much of the gorgeous grape. I just kind of go with the stamp itself, the inking. There we go. Alrighty. So just a little bit to create a little bit more texture. There we go. Okay, so next I am going to add this to my card front. And let's see if I can use my liquid glue. And you'll notice with the liquid glue, I'm careful not to go too close to the edge. Leave at least 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch space between your trail of glue and the edge, and just press firmly. All right, next, where is my sentiment? I did outline cut my sentiment, and this will go rather quickly. It's a very small patch. And again, move your paper. So this one's pretty straightforward, not too long, right? Just bend around. Okay. So let me put down my ribbon. So I'm taking about 10 inches maybe of the fresh freesia. I'm going to do my bunny ear loop and just kind of pull at it until you're happy with it. This is going to be secured. Well, I'm trying to make that a little bit bigger loop. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to secure that with a mini glue dot. So let's see if I can find my glue dots. And this comes right down there. We're going to be adding our sentiment with mini dimensionals. There we go. And again, referring to this card, the sample card, but this card is not going to be an exact duplicate. They're all different. Just going to step down. You're in my hearts and prayers. Now we're going to add some pretty embellishments. One, I've got the tiny bead trinkets, and I know that these are currently unavailable. They will come back. I don't have the date yet. I didn't look that up. I'm just going to put one little tiny bead trinket there. And let's see if I can just use my fingers to put it on that tiny drop of glue. And then I'm also going to add, this is another Saleabration item, these purple adhesive back sequins. You get 4 different colors. I'm using one that goes very nicely with the Highland Heather. These are nice. They've already got the glue dot on the back. And you just want to add a little bit of extra shimmer here. Maybe one more. I'm going to bring it down. There we go. You're in my heart and prayers, using a great technique and that pretty memorable blooms stamp set and So Sincere stamp set. What do you think? Are we good? Are we good? All right, I'm going to keep going. We're going to go on to card number 3. Let me put these aside. Trying to see where my mess is leading me. Let me clear off my tabletop. I'll share with you card number 3, which is a sweet, could be a birthday card, could be a congratulations or some kind of celebration card. Inside it says hello, or outside it says hello friend. You open it up on the inside. This one's for the books. So it could be a birthday celebration. It could be any kind of congratulations. So let me grab what I need for this. Let me put some of these things aside. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to bring in my project sheet with my supplies. And you can see this is the Storybook Friends bundle. I'm going to add, somehow I accumulate a lot of things here when I'm crafting, right? Probably happens to you as well. Let me grab a sip. So we're on to our book-themed birthday or celebration card with the Storybook Friends. Oh my gosh, look at all those Potter-esque characters. So I'm thinking Miss Tiggy Winkle, Squirrel Nutkin, Flopsy, could be Mopsy, and of course Peter Cottontail, the pretty stone wall, a little mound for gardening, and some great greetings. Happy spring, Easter greetings, somebody loves you. Thank you very much. Hello, friend, and welcome, little one. Of course, this is a great baby set. Now, that bundle is currently unavailable. Last night, I noticed you could get the stamp set, but not the dies. However, they will be coming back in stock early March, so not too far off. The other stamp set this uses is that for the books, I'm using the book stack and the sentiment. And for the books also has coordinating dies. I didn't use dies, however, I did purchase the bundle because I know I'm going to want to use those dies. That's what's going on. Okay, so let me take away my recipe, bring in my supplies. This has a very sweet boho blue card base, and it coordinates nicely with wild wheat. And I'm gonna say boho blue and wild wheat are on the retirement list, no doubt, because they are $23.25 in colors. So if you don't have what you want, cardstock, inks, refills, markers, papers, you will want to make sure that you grab those soon. As soon as the retirement list is released things, or last chance, sometimes we call it. Things tend to sell out. So the orientation on this card is a little bit different. I cut it 4 1/4 by 11, scored it 5 1/2. Or sorry, yes, 5 1/2. I'm going to fold and burnish. Make sure you use your bone folder for a nice clean fold. Then I'm going to go ahead and layer up these two. I've got pattern paper. One side is a wild wheat, the other side is the cute gardening paper. This is from the Coordinating Storybook Moments Specialty DSP. And I have a layer of basic beige. I have die cut both of these with the stylish shape circles. And notice how I did it a little bit differently. Sometimes we layer up the opposite way. I have the larger circle on the front, so it kind of telescopes into our focal point. This has been adhered flat, so I'm just going to use my flat adhesive. And I have, oops, I should have called out the measurements. The basic beige should be 4 3/4 by, oh, let me not steer you wrong. 3 3/4. Let me back up here. 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. The DSP has been cut to 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. Right behind that, we are going to be stamping on basic white. So this layer is actually smaller than that basic beige. It should be about the size of your DSP. So 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. That's going to go down below. And that will also be flat adhered. We're going to be layering up like that, stamping right in the middle here. We have our insert layer, which is 3 3/4 by 5. We're going to be decorating that with a snip of the pattern paper. And then we need a scrap for stamping and die cutting. So let's get started with our stamping. And again, I have pre-mounted my stamps, and you can hear my Fergus in the background. Sorry about that. He's been rather quiet so far. All right, so I've got all my stamps. I'm going to be doing a little bit of die cutting, so I have my 2 dies as well. All right, so let's start with my stamping. I'm going to do the books here. It's a stack of books for the books, and then I added the sentiment from Storybook Friends. It says, "Hello, friend," and I just went ahead and mounted both of them on block C. That way I only have to stamp once. I am so sorry. Fergus always has something to say. That must be the wind that's he's objecting to. I don't know. Okay, so this is my window where I want to stamp. I'm going to go ahead and stamp straight there. We're going to do some coloring as well. And let's see, let me get that out of the way. Next, I'm going to stamp my insert, same color. The insert says, this one's for the books. So it could be a birthday celebration, could be an achievement. Just kind of depends on what message you want to send. This one's for the books. Okay, let's keep with our stamping. We are going to stamp, let's see. Oh, I do need my Pebbled Path, another retiring in color, by the way, for my eyeglasses. And this one comes from For the Books. I'm going to put it right at the top of the stack of books. Too cute. I love it. One of my favorite stamp sets when I saw this first in the mini catalog. All right, I'm done with my Pebbled Path. Let me bring in my Early Espresso, and I am going to be stamping the hedgehog, which if you're into Beatrix Potter, you know the hedgehog who did her ironing and cleaning was Miss Tiggy Winkle. And that was stamped in Early Espresso. I'm also going to stamp Flopsy. She could be Mopsy, I'm not sure. And I'm stamping her in Pecan Pie. A little bit more of a bunny color. And let's see, she goes right on that little scrap. There we go. Okay, I think I'm finished with my stamping. We're going to do some coloring. Here are my blends. This time I'm coloring with alcohol blends, which is why I stamped with a dye ink. All right, so let's pull that aside. We're going to do our coloring. And you know what? Let's get rid of our, whoa, I got a little spot there, but that's okay. I've got something I'm going to cover that with. I'm going to do my insert. I don't know how that little bit of ink got there, but it's in a perfect spot. Anyway, I'm going to cover it with my wild wheat snip of coordinating paper. And hurry before it gets soiled. I'm going to put it on the inside of my card. Flat adhered. I think I might be getting inky hands, actually. That's why things are getting a little bit soiled. All right, so, hey. Let's see. I haven't checked any comments. I'm hoping that you give me a thumbs up, a thumbs, I don't want to say a thumbs down, but if that's the case, it's okay. Just let me know what so far. If you're a bunny lover, let me know. This bundle is for you. If you're a bunny lover, a Beatrix Potter lover, a book lover. All right, so we've got our insert. I'm going to assemble my layers up to the side here. Let's go with my blends. I'll tell you what I'm using. I do have my color lifter. I have crumb cake. I have pecan pie, pebbled path, wild wheat. Let's see, copper clay, another retiring color, boho blue, and petal pink. So let's start with the card front. My books, I am starting with, I'm going to bring in my wild wheat. I'm going to use my pen tip for a little bit of the detail on some of these books. They have a nice little bind there. I'm going to add that detail as well as top book. All right, now, and maybe right in here. One of the books I did color with the wild wheat, so I'm going to use my brush tip here and just come in and add some color quickly. Easy. And I think I'm done with my wild wheat. Let me bring in my boho blue. I'm doing a couple of books in boho blue, top book. And right through here. And then I think I did my bottom book in boho blue as well. There we go. Here. So this one you have to be careful with. If you're using the brush tip, you could use the bullet tip as well. Some of the areas are kind of tight in there. All right, before I put my boho blue away, I'm going to come in and color little Flopsy's dress in boho blue. I'm going to leave a little white Peter Pan collar on her dress and on the armband. Oh, somebody broke through. So hopefully I won't get Jean barking in the background. I usually try to pen them in the other side of the house when I go live because they have a tendency to bark at passersby. They are, by the way, Jean and Fergus are Scottish Terriers. Very territorial. Yes, there he goes. I can already hear him growling. I might need to guide him back to the other side of the house. All right, so there's my boho blue. I'm going to bring in my copper clay. Actually, before that, I'm going to bring in my petal pink, and I'm going to do Flopsy's ears and Miss Tiggy Winkle's apron, and just some of it. Okay, let me take a break. All right, Gene had to go back to his own room. Okay, so I did Flopsy's ear and Miss Tiggy Winkle's apron. Now I'm going to bring in my copper clay, and I'm going to bring in some detail on Miss Tiggy Winkle's, or the hedgehog's, apron, the bow and the band, and then the ruffles. And then I'm doing a little bit of plaid on her apron, just some lines to guide it through. All right, then I'm also going to do one of the books with the copper clay. You can see I'm using the bullet tip. Some of the areas do get kind of tight and fine. There. Okay, so we're almost done with the books and with our coloring. And let's see, I'm going to bring in crumb cake, and I'm going to do some of the pages. Just going to add some detailing on the pages of the books. And then we're going to come in and color Flopsy with crumb cake. Just like so. And we're going to color as well. Oh, we need to do her arms and her feet and lower body, not her cottontail. And Miss Tiggy Winkle also we're doing with crumb cake. And all over. So overall, Miss Tiggy Winkle is crumb cake. I did do a couple of bits. Let me do her face as well. Okay, and I'm going to bring in a little bit of pecan pie and do some shadowing on the bunny right below. There we go. Easy. And I am going to do Pebbled Path. I just kind of came in and I outlined the hedgehog's eye. And I did her feet a little bit darker. All right, so I think that is it for our coloring. Let's assemble this. So I'm going to push that aside. This gets put down flat. So we have that depth, or that perception of depth with the two layers. So this is flat, and I do have almost an equal border all the way around. This layer gets put on with dimensionals. So let's see if I've got those handy. I just went and I grabbed a new package. All right, so these are the standard size. Let me put those there. Put some dimension. So far we've done one birthday, one sympathy, and this one could be either birthday or celebration, but it's nice to have options when you need the cards. All right, so I kind of patted the outer area and then a little bit closer to the circle cut. And I had pre-die cut just to move things along a little bit faster. because we are making 4 cards. And again, these are not the sweet and simple cards I do for some of my classes. And then this, whoops, gets secured down. Let's add our little friends on the front. We need to die cut these. Let me bring in the mini. There we go. And right through here, I'm going to open that up. All right, so I need platform number 3, cutting pad, my cardstock, my dies, and I am going to hold my breath. I don't have Post-it tape with me. You know what? I might do these separately because I stamped them pretty close together. Easy enough. All right, so there is, whoops, sorry about that. Flopsy. We're going to do the hedgehog next. So on the storybook, you have all the characters. You have the squirrel, the raccoon, the bunny. You have the bunny in the garden with the cabbage and the flower. Uh-oh. No, fine. I thought it had shifted. We're fine. All right, it's there. I'm still going to need my die cutting machine for the next card. All right, let's go. So hedgehog comes up. Flopsy is in the lower position, and here's what we're doing. Up where the character is not on the dimensional layer, we're going to put a dimensional there, and then the lower portion can just be flat adhesive, so she sticks. There. And the same with the bunny. We're going to put a dimensional over the circle area where we need some dimension. And then down below, flat adhesive. And we're going to push it right in here. And we're going to add some embellishments. We are going to add the antique pearls. They are part of this storybook suite, and I'm going to use 3. Put one of the bigger ones towards the bottom, and then 2 smaller up top. There, and then I brought out my color lifter because I want to add a little bit of dimension here. I'm just going to do some brush stroking to lift some of that color where the light would be coming down on the books. And let's see if I can use my bullet tip. All right, so you're going to see the action a little bit later with that. You can kind of see on the original where I have a little bit of light cast down in that area. They're not flat, just flat. So there is our hello friend using our storybook bundle and the For the Books bundles. Could be a birthday, could be a celebration card. All right, so I don't know, do you like the bunnies? And the hedgehog, I should say. So one more card. This is a very pretty birthday card. What I love about this card is that it could also be a miss you card, wishing you all the best. So again, it could be a send-off card, lots of love, or you well. So nice get well card as well. So it looks a little bit of a confusing mess. You have two-step stamping going on. So you have the solid colored, and then you have the detail on the blooms and then the singles as well. You've got some stems going on, some leaves. So it's two-step stamping. When you look at it, the picture, it looks a little bit confusing, but trust me, it's really a beautiful set with the coordinating dies. We're going to be die cutting, and I have combined it with the elements of text to create that scripty background there. And I've also used Everyday Arches. It's an online exclusive die set. It is a bundle, but I chose to purchase only the dies on this one. And again, I'm going to come in and remind in case you popped in late. On this page at the top, you will see a file section. I do have my PDF with the project sheet for February. So this only lists all the supplies that were used on this particular card. It won't give you dimensions or step-by-step, but it's a great starting point when you want to get creative and remember what we did with the project. So let me bring this in. We'll start with our basics. Here are the supplies. It's a beautiful Daffodil Delight background. So I've got my card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish with my bone folder. We have several sheets of basic white. So the insert is 3 3/3 by 5. It's going to go on the inside. We have a layer that is 3 inches by 4 1/4. We're going to stamp and secure down. I'm using some of the coordinating pattern paper from this suite, the Delightful Wishes. Let's see, it's called Floral Delight. This layer measures 3 3/4 by 5, and I have pre-die cut it one of those arch dies. It's going to be layered atop. And then I have a couple of layers for stamping and die cutting, a couple of snips of the Designer Series paper for our insert. I pre-die cut the branch in Pecan Pie for that branch of blossoms. And I did my heat embossing label. I didn't want to have you watch me stamp and heat set. So this is a birthday card, so it will say wishing you a happy birthday. And I'm also using a small strand of the coordinating ribbon. This is 1/8 of an inch thick. It's Daffodil Delight satin ribbon, the kind of ribbon I like to put on a card because it's not too bulky. So let's do our insert. I've got a snip of the pattern paper on one side. It's Old Olive, and then I've got another floral snip. I could use either, I think I'm going to use that yellow side. This goes down flat on the insert. So let's see if I've got any glue left in here. I do. Yay. I can tell I'm coming to the end of that bottle. Okay, so I've got my Old Olive strip. Then I'm going to add my yellow. And so on the insert, you could either stamp another birthday greeting or just handwrite your birthday greeting. And this will go on the inside. Oh, you know what? We're going to do some stamping on it, so let's lay that aside. Let's do our stamping next. So let's start. I'm going to put some of these pieces aside, bring in my stamps and ink. Okay, so the script, I am stamping with the, what is the name of that? All of a sudden I went blank. So it's called Elements of Text. This is the large circle one. You can see there is directionality on it, and I'm going to stamp it in Lemon Lolly. So on my sample card, it is stamped with Daffodil Delight. You're going to get to see the difference. It's a large block stamp as well. So I'm going to turn that up, ink down. I'm going to need that. And I'm going to stamp my layer with the text. stamping down. It creates a nice background for that arch and that branch of forsythia flowers coming down. I'm done with that. Let me put that aside. And so as not to lose anything, I'm going to go ahead and add this to my card front. Flat. So this comes down here. And if you've stamped with me before, sometimes I like to eliminate some of these layers before I lose them. So you could do all your stamping and then layering as well, but just because I have a tendency to lose things as soon as I hit record on this. All right, I'm going to bring in my dimensionals to add some depth on this layer. And this is popped up, so I'm framing it out, sort of like I did on card number 1 with that birthday frame. And this is why I go through so many dimensionals every week. Okay, so there's that. Let me go ahead and add that down. Just removing the covering of the dimensionals. And these are standard size. Again, I like to have all sizes, all colors at the ready when I'm stamping and creating. Flip that over and we're going to frame out that text. I have an equal border all the way around. There we go. All right, so there's our card front and our insert. We're going to do some stamping. And here's our color scheme. We're using the color partners, Lemon Lolly and Daffodil Delight. On the insert, let me bring that back in. I'm going to stamp a couple of the small flowers. This is two-step stamping, so you have an overall color and then you have a detail stamp. First, I'm going to stamp with the detail color, which is Daffodil Delight. It's the darker of the yellow. And I'm using the detail stamp, and I'm going to do a trio right on the insert. All right, then I'm going to come in with my overall color in the lighter yellow, which is Lemon Lolly, and there is a orientation to this, so to find the right spots, you kind of just twist until you see it land about right. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. There we go. And let's see if I didn't twist too much. So one of my stampers and I were talking about the two-step stamping. I don't think they're made to be precise, but so you can obsess over the placement, or you can just stamp it a little bit more whimsical. You can see I might have gone outside the lines. It's okay. It looks pretty, and you guessed it. I'm going to add that insert before I lose it or before I ruin it with a little ink spot. So let's put that down. It's 3 3/4 by 5 with the little detail strips. There's my insert, pretty insert, and you have plenty of space to stamp a birthday greeting or write your birthday greeting. All right, next, again, I'm shooting to place this down, and you can choose to glue that down. I am going to be securing it with the little blossoms that we're going to stamp. So we're going to continue on with our two-step stamping. I have another scrap of white, and oops, I have my little blossoms. And again, this works the same way. You have a detail stamp and you have the overall color wash. And I have, to help out my stampers, I put top, this is the top of the stamp, and this gets done first in the darker color, which happens to be Daffodil Delight. And so I'm gonna stamp down. It doesn't look like anything yet, right? So we need to add the color wash with the lemon lolly. Second step, there's the top, and I'm just gonna glance for placement. There you go. So it's not as difficult as it looks. We still have a little bit more stamping to do. I'm going to bring in a bigger scrap of basic white, and we are going to stamp that big wishing in Old Olive. And this is a huge eye block. I'm going to put that upside down, ink up. There, and let's see. I was hoping for my piercing mat. I found it. Call off the 911, right? Because this is a photopolymer stamp, I want to get a nice impression. Okay, wishing. Let's put that aside. We're going to do our die cutting, and I can fold up these ink pads. Get rid of the piercing mat. I'm going to bring in my die cutting machine. Platforms. So I need platform 3, cutting pad 2, paper, and the die. And again, this is just like the stamp, just rotate it until you're in the right spot. And I think I need to turn that plate over. There we go. So you could use some tape or just hold your breath and it'll be okay. Cutting pad on top. There we go. All right, so I'm going to put this aside. I'm going to bring in my next die cutting, which is the wishing, and we have the nice big die. And you just want to make sure that your ink appears within the die. It's pretty easy to line up. And again, if you need to, you could secure it with Post-it tape. So there's our large wishing. And our small blossoms. Let's bring in our card. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to be putting dimensionals behind the blossoms. I'm going to start with that three blossom piece. And these are the mini dimensionals. And remember, I didn't secure the branch down. I'm pretty comfortable with it. It's going to be held in place with the blossoms. So this goes down in here. We're going to do that smaller blossom at the top. Oops, I grabbed just the covering on that. Okay, here we go. And pop that down. Let's do another within the frame. And then that final one, it's already popped up, so I am just going to add a little bit of glue. secure this down. And we have one small little bud. You could layer it or just put it on another branch. All right, it's coming together, right? So the wishing is going to go down with dimensionals within the frame, and outside we're just going to put a glue dot. Sort of like what we did with the previous framed card. And what I'm looking for is a nice thin strip for those tall letters. There we go. Let me remove that. And I cut a small thin strip for that H, and then maybe for the N. And one more there. All right, let's add this. Little covering's not wanting to come off. There we go. All right, so this is going to go within that frame, just like so. And we're going to put glue dots on the outside there, but we're also going to add wishing you a happy birthday. Before we do that, I'm going to add the ribbon. So I'm just going to make a nice big looped Daffodil Delight satin ribbon. We're adding this to the card front with a mini glue dot. And it's kind of coming down by the descender of that G. This gets popped up with dimensionals. Mini, let's see if I can find my minis still. Yep, here they go. And let's see, right there. Let's bring that in right over the ribbon. And let's bring in some mini glue dots. I feel like that's moving a little bit more than that's fine. All right, and my take your pick. And so I'm going to have this down with the mini glue dot. And I'm going to put one right behind the W. And then I'll add one behind the G. Maybe move that down a little bit. There we go. Now let's do our embellishing. This one's going to be one small embellishment. I'm using one tiny bead trinket, approaching the blossom. Uh-oh. There we go. Oops. That is a little bit more than I want. So I'm going to bring in a little tiny piece of cardstock and remove quite a bit of it. There. Bring in one tiny bead trinket. There we go. Sweet. All right. There is our wishing you a happy birthday with the Delightful Wishes bundle. And you can see the difference between Daffodil Delight and Lemon Lolly. Which do you think? What's better, the lighter or the darker? I like them both. This one coordinates nicely with that pecan pie branch. And this one just kind of fades out into the background, which is nice because I wanted it as a subtle addition. And so, let's see, let's wrap it up. I hope you had as much fun as I did with these cards. They are going to be a joy to send. They were a joy to make. If you do make these, I would love for you to post your version right below this post. Feel free to share. Comment which one of these cards is your favorite. I would love to know. Was it the unisex happy birthday, the soft and pretty sympathy card, the bunny and books birthday or congratulations, or the pretty birthday card? Now, if you need any of the supplies, I would love if you shop with me. I have a link that I'll post right at the top. Post a make a $60 order by the end of the month, and I will send you a free card class, and you will have your choice of a celebration pick. If you want to craft with me every month, stay tuned. I'll be with you next month, featuring cards that help you connect with our online card class. And I want to thank you so much for spending time with me today. It's been a while, I know. I hope you enjoyed relaxing and watching, and I hope you got some inspiration on creating to send the smiles you want. Let me end with the cards that we created. So our birthday, our sympathy, our happy birthday for the books, congratulations, and our unisex happy birthday. Post which one's your favorite. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me.